Welcome to High Infidelity, the best cheating videos on YouTube. If you enjoy this content, remember to subscribe and turn on notifications. Now let's get into the video.
My wife, 62 female, and I, 62 male, divorced 12 years ago after 36 years of marriage and raising 2 wonderful children. I later learned she had cheated. Ex-wife now wants us to date again. Should I? Does this ever work? Part 3. I didn't say anything to her throughout the photo shoot, though she did attempt to engage me a couple of times. I made jokes with my kid and others, but not with her. What did she anticipate? I smile for my daughter's sake, but I couldn't wait to go to the reception area and get away from my ex. Fortunately, my daughter had pre-arranged the seating, and I was put next to her, but my ex was sat a few seats down, which was yet another setback for her. As far as I know, the ex was unaware that I was aware of the OM. She wouldn't be attempting to conceal it and expect to be friends if she didn't. My respect, trust, and desire for my ex were all gone, damaged. No matter how lovely she was, I offered a beautiful father of the bride speech, but made no mention of my ex, as if she had no involvement in raising our kid. I know, it's another shady move. I didn't glance in my ex's way during the father-bride dance, but I'm told she was weeping. We were meant to dance after both sets of parents, but we didn't. I managed to dodge my ex for the rest of the evening and spent it with my daughter, son, and new son-in-law. I didn't see her depart, so I don't know how long she remained, but the few times I saw her, she seemed unhappy, not like someone enjoying her daughter's marriage. My company's policy required decision-makers, business officials, to attend at least one therapy session after a catastrophic life event, such as a family death, divorce, delivery, even if the father was there, and so on. I was already a few months behind, and HR was harassing me on a weekly basis, so I arranged the necessary session only to check the box. I ended up going 3 times more. I never imagined I'd go for IC, but he was quite helpful. Not the touchy-feely thing I was expecting. He couldn't help me understand why or what my ex did, and he didn't try, but he could teach me how to respond to it in a healthy manner, which included continuing with no contact until I was in a healthier mental condition. It was my decision when I was ready to speak to her, not hers. Another responsibility was to determine if I wanted to know the specifics and chronology of the ex-affair wife's activities and her sentiments, which was entirely up to me. It was then up to me to decide whether or not my ex-wife and I could ever be friends again. Another goal was to assess if reconciliation was ever conceivable and what I would need from my ex-wife in order for my option to be considered. Each choice, as well as the reasoning behind it, had to be documented and presented to the following session. Looking back, I believe much of this was the counselor's attempt to re-establish some decision-making and power in my hands, which worked for my personality. Am I divulging trade secrets, counselors? There were also numerous talks regarding my sentiments, emotions, and guilt along the process, but they were private, so I won't go into them here. We spoke about how to live alone and what would make me happy and content in the future in our final session. My mission had been to be the leader of the family, the provider, the husband, and the parent. I needed a fresh sense of purpose and ambitions in my life. Now, I wish I had offered, or insisted, that my ex-wife and I attend MC when it all began. Maybe it would have helped, at least for me. My ex apparently took a hit as a result of my ongoing no-contact, 180 policy. In the months after her daughter's wedding, she left me numerous lengthy phone messages, some of which were heartbreaking. I didn't listen to all of them and never reacted, but she was apologetic for not telling me about OM and how I found out. And she badly wanted us to speak about things and at the very least be friends again. In a subsequent message, she said that she made a terrible mistake and is very sorry for hurting me. She also stated that she misses me and our life, and asked if we could chat. On one of her last messages, she sounded a little tipsy and rambled about how much she hurt me, and how she was wrong, and how she lost the only man she's ever loved, as well as her family and most of her friends, and how she knows I hate her. But she will always love only me, and will always be my girl, and would give anything to get things back to the way they were. What did she expect from me, yet again? That ship had left port. I didn't want to speak about things, nor did I care about the OM or other specifics. Knowing she chose him and tossed me away after 36 years of suffering and trying was enough for me. That was 12 years ago. It's no longer painful. I had to learn how to live alone and reinvent my purpose, just as my counselor predicted. Our I'm-aware buddies are no longer my pals. I transformed my home into my fantasy mansion. I added a third garage space for my new Harley Softail with a deuce seat and an ATV. I used to ride before I met her, but my ex would never allow me even contemplate buying a motorbike. I installed all of the latest conveniences in the kitchen and living areas, and I transformed the basement into my man cave, complete with a killer sound system, great movie capabilities, a wet bar, and a high-quality gym. After a hard day, I go down there and work out, then sit in my chair in the dark with my sound system set up loud and listen to classical music or old rock and relax. Ex always frowned on me ever playing my music loud. In addition, on game days, everyone gathers to my home and FL. We watch numerous games at the same time, much like at a sports bar. I also made up a playroom for my young grandsons, complete with a TV, miniature furniture, and animals painted on the walls, as well as a toy box full of toys. I adore my grandchildren, and my son and daughter bring them to visit on a regular basis. We recently had a pumpkin carving party here last week, and it was a lot of fun. It would have been perfect for my ex. I'm considering buying another dog to play with the grandchildren and myself. I erected a remote wood-burning stove with a heat exchanger and now heat my house mostly with wood from my own forest. It works excellent and keeps me off the sofa and moving throughout the winter months. I also like solitary life from a romantic standpoint. My friends' wives and girlfriends attempted to match me up with other ladies early on, but I refused. They are fantastic matchmakers. With my child's intense pushing, I eventually caved after almost 2 years and agreed to a double date. I was nervous at first, but I progressed from those initial cautious, uncomfortable double dates to now having continuous relationships with numerous wonderful ladies. Dating in your 50s and early 60s is not the same as it was when I was a young guy. There are a lot of clever, beautiful unattached ladies my age and younger who want to be noticed by a comparably healthy guy. You don't have to be a superstar. Just be courteous, attentive, confident, and most importantly, have fun. I'm always open and honest with them about the fact that I'm not searching for a marriage or even an exclusive relationship. I did it for 36 years and enjoyed it, but I don't want to do it again. I'm really careful and picky. I will neither be with a married woman, nor will I be with a woman just for the purpose of having intimate time. I have to like her, have fun with her, and sense that she feels the same way about me. I take them to concerts, baseball games, camping, backyard cookouts, dinner, theater, and other activities before we become personal, if at all. It took some time for me to adjust to non-exclusive thinking, and I would get jealous and possessive if I spotted one of them out with another person or group. It was difficult to break away from the narrow attitude. I eventually recognized that you can't expect to dominate a partner any more than they can control you. It's all part of the bargain, and it's fair. I enjoy it because I know she's with me because she wants to be, not simply because we're in an exclusive relationship and it's required of her. Don't get me wrong, I'm not intimate with all of my women friends or every time I cross that boundary. If it occurs spontaneously in each occurrence. I never seduce, and I never put pressure on or make it an expectation of our relationship. It's sort of invigorating for both of us, and it relieves some of the strain. Some women like to be chased and seduced, but not me. I have a few of longtime woman friends with whom I have never been intimate and probably will never be, and that's okay with me. I've been a private pilot for many years and fly my own tiny aircraft, experimental amateur made, but my wife has never been interested in flying. The majority of the women like it, and I have personally asked every one of them to join me on fly-ins and short vacations. Have you heard of the $100 hamburger? They also like rides on my Harley for breakfast or lunch. Each of these unique ladies has her own hobbies, and I've climbed Mount Baker, after months of preparation, taken diving lessons, and received my PADI open water dive certificate, and skydive as a tandem with them. I've also been to the opera, and it wasn't all that horrible, who knew? One even brought me to city parks in search of wedding celebrations. When we found one, we would mix with the guests, eat their food and drink their alcohol, and everyone believed we were with the other party, the bride or groom. When we spotted a collecting jar or money tree, we would always toss in $100. These are just the highlights. Most of the time, I'm at home alone, or at best, sitting on the sofa with one of them, watching Netflix or grooving to her favorite music. The point is, these ladies force me to do things I would never do on my own. I still fight with wanting these ladies all to myself, particularly the wedding crasher gal. She's the entire package, but I can't let myself think that way. I went on a 7-day cruise with 3 lovely ladies just before COVID. I'd only dated and been intimate with one of them before to and during the trip, but they were all pleasant and flirtatious, and we laughed and had a great time. Every night, we went on day trips and then danced and partied aboard the ship. This is me at the age of 60. Except for several unforgettable travels with our preteen children, this was perhaps the finest vacation of my life. At the conclusion of the voyage, a cruise company employee contacted me and offered if I wanted to go on future cruises at incredible savings. It seems that more older single males are needed to dance and connect with all of the single women and widows. What kind of person would I be if I did that? Unfortunately, my ex may not be as lucky as I am. According to what I've heard, her connection with the OM lasted around 3 years. I didn't know the specifics or whether they ever lived together. I also didn't inquire and didn't know whether she was dating or seeing anybody else. It's no longer my concern. I know my daughter and my ex have rekindled their friendship after her romance with OM ended. To pacify my children, I began replying to my ex's messages and emails approximately 5 years ago, but we largely only exchanged information and pictures about the kids and grandchildren. My ex says she wants to sit down and chat with me about the divorce and the affair when I'm ready and answer any questions I have, but I simply don't want to know all of that. I see no use in responding to such emails, so I just ignore them. We saw one other at weddings and funerals and exchanged courteous pleasantries. We last spoke in person during the baptism of our newest grandchild. She was still gorgeous, but she was getting older, aren't we all? She was always naturally beautiful and didn't wear much makeup, but now she does. I'm in the finest form I've been in years, both mentally and physically, yet she seemed to be quite skinny. She said it wasn't fair that I improved with age, implying she didn't. We sat and spoke largely about the grandchildren and how quickly they are growing up. We also laughed for nearly 2 hours about many happy memories of ourselves and our children growing up. That was a lot of fun, and it reminded me of why I fell in love with her in the first place. Her enthusiasm, kindness, and charisma. I'll confess that I felt the same way I did when we were dating. She has always sent me birthday, anniversary, and Christmas cards, as well as the odd fruit basket. What's with the fruit baskets? And she sometimes gives me tickets to great events since her job involves planning events at big and medium-sized venues. I'm not sure how she knows so much about my life, but she does. My kids don't know much about my social life since it's personal to me. I don't use social media and never have, so my personal life isn't on display for everyone to see. I've never introduced any of my female acquaintances to my children, but they do sometimes see images of our activities together and claim that Mom has described my most interesting escapades. My son and daughter say she often asks whether I ever inquire about her. My daughter notices how joyful and easygoing I am these days, and she believes I'm more relaxed. I believe this is because I retired last year, and the demands of the work and office politics are no longer with me. It's quite freeing and improves your day-to-day mindset. These are unquestionably golden years. How long is it going to last? Who can say? I still regret the loss of my marriage from time to time, prompted by an old image, an object, or a location. My ex and I just agreed that she will be there for me when I become old and need help, and that I would be there for her and beat her champion when she needs it. Her family has a history of stroke. She mentioned it and is serious about it. As am I. We have both signed HIPAA and medical directive paperwork for one another. She was my wife for 36 years and is the mother of my children and grandma of my grandkids. Over the last 2 months, she has asked me to dinner at her condo on an evening of my choice, or to go on a date instead. My decision, her tab. My daughter has also addressed it many times in recent months, revealing that Mom isn't seeing anybody and hasn't been for years, and that I'm the only one she aches for. Will I take my ex out on a date or pay her a visit for dinner? Maybe, I'm not sure. I'll have to think about it more. I'm fascinated but wary. Are they conspiring against me? My daughter knows better than to ambush me with her mother, but I have complete faith that she would never let me be wounded again. So what is their endgame? I am divorced, but I will not be alone in my old age. I enjoyed my married life and my wife, and I am now enjoying my single life. Life carries on notwithstanding. Should I go on a date with my ex after a 12-year separation? I hadn't given her any consideration in a decade, but now I'm thinking what it would be like to date her. Should I find out, or should I avoid that emotional danger at all costs?